Grades updated hopefully by Wednesday, but again, like I said, you guys were all in really good standings, and so I don't think you guys are going to have much to worry about in terms of your grade. Let's take a look at the Ice Age project. I want to go through a couple things, and we're going to do them very, very quickly. And this stuff's actually going to move very fast. It's more about the doing. Oh, unrecoverable error. Yes, please. Well, wait for whatever that was. Okay. Step one, what we're going to do, and you can put in your notes, this is specific to the project, okay? So this isn't just a general thing. We're going to automate our ambience tracks. So in your topic header, you can just write automating ambience track, okay? And we're literally, I'm just going to have you guys roll through these in a step-by-step method. We're going to do two types of automation for the ambience track. In phase one, we are going to just do basic volume automation. Okay, so like I said, in your header you can put automation or automating ambience track. And it's for the first group, we're going to automate volume. Okay, so our first task that we're going to do is automating volume. For volume automation, for the ambience track, we need to do a couple of things. Step one, group the ambience tracks. Okay, we're going to group the ambience tracks in step one. Now, does somebody recall how we group tracks? Anybody remember? So step one, we're going to group the ambience tracks. How do we do it?
Setting up a new group.
Okay, yeah. How do we do it?
It's in the mix or window under groups. I don't know. I just.
Okay. Oh, okay, close. That's one way to do it. The way that we're going to do it, so in step one, you can just write this information with step one. Select the tracks and hit Command G. Okay, so you're going to select your ambience tracks, hit Command G. So select tracks. This is still part of step one, because this is just grouping your tracks. Select tracks, hit Command G. Cool? Now, here's what we have to set up. So I'm going to go ahead and select my ambience tracks, which I think it's just these three, right? So I'm going to select them. How do I select them? I'm just going to hold Shift, go to the end, hit Command G. Now, before I just say, okay, let's go for it, in step two, we have to do a couple of things to just make this nice and tidy. So step two, name the group. And in this case, it's going to be ambience. Okay, so name the group ambience. In step two, so we're going to name the group ambience. In step three, we are going to go to the global attributes that over here, and I think, yeah, there we go. To the global attributes section. Step three, go to the global attributes and select all global attributes. Okay. So you're going to go to the global attributes and select all global attributes, the ones that say globals. You're literally just going to select all of these boxes, and then you can hit OK. Now, the reason we're going to select all of these is so that this basically, what this does, and you can easily do it by holding Option and clicking on these. What this does is it basically sets up like what we're allowed to do as a group for these guys, because one of the things we're going to want to do is we're going to be doing levels. If we wanted to do mute, we want to do them as a group. If we want to do pan, we want to do them as a group. It allows you to kind of separate what you are or are not doing. The other thing is, notice where it says insert and then it says A through J. Insert A through J, it shows controls and it shows bypass. Well, the cool part about this is by doing this as a group, we want to automate two things. We're going to automate volume and we're going to automate, I think what was our, pitch shifting. So, well, pitch shifting is going to be an automatable function from a plugin, and our hope is that by setting them up in groups, we just do it once for the entire group, and it gets cast out for all of them. Does that make sense? So it's a real simple, easy process. We're just going to simply hit OK. All right? OK, after you've set up the group, your next step will be to switch the automation mode for these tracks to write. Okay, so you're going to switch automation mode to write, and that has to be on the specific selected tracks. So you're just going to open up Ice Age. Okay. So we're going to switch to automation mode to write. Now, all we have to do from here in this final step for volume automation, well, it's really not the final step. This is the big major step. So this is going to take a few steps. I just write this down. This is all stuff you can do. Okay. In the next step, watch the video, play from the beginning, and automate your volume by moving your faders up and down. And it's that easy. Okay. So we have to watch the video. We're going to play it from the beginning, and we're going to automate the volumes by moving the faders up and down. Based upon taste, okay? And the reason we're automating it is to have more flux than just a flat line kind of sound. So watch how I do this real quick. And this isn't, the final step's actually, your last step after this would be switch automation mode back to read, okay? So when we're done. Now all I'm gonna do, in order to do this, I gotta do a couple things, and I put them all in that same step. How do I get to the beginning of the session?
Return.
Okay, return. Easy, right? Now how do I open up the video? Right, a couple ways. You can use this window here, or you can just simply hit Command 9 on the keypad. Although my video, I think my video engine failed. Let me see. Let's see if it did it. I'm sorry. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, at this point in time, I need to watch the video, and I'm going to use these faders to automate my ambience, all right? So just to make it simple, I'm going to solo this ambience group, and I'm going to get rid of everybody else just so I don't have any distractions. And literally, this is all I'm going to do. Now, remembering that the ambience, we set up the wind to go to a certain marker. It didn't span the whole session, right? So like this isn't going to take very long at all. Let me unmute this real quick. Sorry, let me just see if I have volume here. Oh goodness. Well, apparently my video engine. Apologize, my video engine does not seem to be working. So I'm just gonna have to pretend that it did. And I'll reboot this after I get you guys back into this yourself. So literally, you're just going to watch this. I've watched what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by pulling this down. Okay, before I go, I'm going to go ahead and go into write, and let's go for it. Now, if I had the clip, what I would be able to do, if I had the clip, what I'd be able to do is I'd be able to essentially go from end to end on this, and you know, watch the thing as it's passing by. But obviously, my video engine's having trouble. All you're going to do is you're going to automate it in that way. When you're done with that automation, all you're literally doing is you're just going to bump it up here and there, give it a little bit of a touch. The goal is to make it feel somewhat realistic and not so stagnant. Otherwise, if it's static and it just stays the same way, it's kind of boring. The other thing is like when you're moving to like the hop and stomp cues, you want more attention focused on those so you can deal with a little less of the background ambience. All you're going to do after that is hit stop, flip it back to read, take it back to the beginning, you know, push play, see kind of where it left off. Does that make sense? So far? So far, so good? Okay. I'm going to have to reboot this. Let's have you guys jump into doing those steps real quick for volume automation. Let me get this back out. Just let me know if you guys have any questions. Dylan, I don't know how much of that you caught. You didn't get any of those steps then, did you? Basically what you're going to do is you're going to group the ambience tracks, and then you're going to automate them with volume. Okay, so is your session open already? Okay, so you can select the tracks and just hit Command G. So select I don't know how many wind or ambience tracks you made, highlight them, and then just hit Command G, and it'll throw them into a group. Once you've done that, you can select everybody in that grid. Oh yeah, these guys over here, right? Yeah, so like these. Yeah, you can just select the first, hold Shift, and select the last. There you go. Just hit Command G, and then you're going to name it ambience. And then, actually, here before you go to the mix window, so you can see this. It's kind of behind this. If you move the video engine window, it's just right here. It's this little drop down. Just hit modify. There you go. Modify groups. Okay, go to IDA. Select. I think it's already on. Oh, it is. Okay, yeah. Okay, so and then just go to globals. What we're going to do is I'm going to have you activate all of these. So hold Option and you can click each of these. So hit that row, do all. Yeah. So just make sure you get it one more time, and then these two down here, and then hit OK. After that, you can go ahead and switch this to right. There you go, and then kick it from the beginning by hitting Return. You're just going to start from the beginning. Put your headphones on. Then all you're basically going to do is automate your fader volumes. But start from negative infinity. So pull them all down and start from there. All right, after you've done that and you're happy with it, hit save so you have it saved. Let's just talk about cleaning that up real quick, okay? So, I mean, obviously that took like the time it took to almost just do it, right? So it was real fast. Everybody got through it, right? Yeah, okay, and then it worked. So you put it back to read, it should all work. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. If you go to those tracks, they're grouped, so everything that happens with them happens together. If you go to those tracks in the edit window, I want you to switch the track view selector from waveform to volume, okay? So you're just gonna switch from waveform to volume, just so you can see it here. I'm just gonna show you a little bit of how to clean this up, and then we're gonna move on to the next automation task, okay? So after you switch to volume, you should see all these breakpoint moves, all the stuff that you just wrote in. Well, there's a couple things we can do to clean this up. We can actually, there's a function where we can tell the automation to actually clean up the automation in the edit window. But more specifically, in most cases, the real issue here is just general mistakes in the automation, okay, which you could redo by just going back and pushing the fader. But in some instances, it's just easy enough to just do this as a real quick, fast edit. So one of the things we can do is this is the one problem that we always run into. You're going to set the ambience level, and the ambience level is going to set the overall floor for where things are being mixed. Sometimes during the duration of the mix, you realize that everything's just getting way too loud, so everybody has to be brought back down. Well, the issue with that is you can't do it by just moving the faders on an automated track, because if you move the faders on an automated track, when you push play, they just return to the automation point. So once the automation is written, you can't just go turn that fader down. So a lot of times the big edit that you have to do, or the big cleanup that you have to do, is just an overall adjustment to the automation. So let me show this to you. This isn't something that you necessarily need to do right now. This may be something that you'll end up doing when you're in the process of when you're mixing your overall levels for this session. All we have to do to make some of these adjustments is literally just highlight the whole range and go back to the trimmer tool. Do you guys remember doing this? We did this in a couple instances. And you're just going to use the selector tool, highlight the whole range, make sure you're in slip mode so it's nice and easy. And then really all you have to do is grab it, and because we're in a group, it's going to do it to everybody. And you can either turn the automation up overall so that it's relative, like it relatively stays the same. It's just an overall volume adjustment, right? Either up or down. In my instance, here, I think I pushed it a little too loud towards the end, and I think possibly, so like I'm gonna deviate from my original and possibly not enough at the beginning. Well, watch how this works. I mentioned this before. There's two sets of numbers on screen. Well, actually, in each track clip, you can see there's two sets of numbers. What does the first set of numbers mean? Do you remember? I mentioned this before. First set of numbers where it says, like on the top, it says negative 5.7 dB. What is that number? Okay, well, what this number is that's the actual volume level of the first breakpoint move. Okay? In 0, see where it says 0? And essentially what that 0 dB in the parentheses means is adjustments relative to the original starting point. So that means and that's really the one that I'm always looking for. The one in the parentheses is one that's most important to me, because if I'm saying, oh, I just want to adjust this whole thing overall, let's say I want to do it by a -1 dB, I'm looking for the one that says, you see it right there, in the parentheses. Right? And that's the number that's most specifically important to me because it's a relative position from where I started. It's actually way more valuable than having to calculate like what -16 is. If you're like, I need a 2.5 dB move off a -16 dB start. Right? So you just kind of guide through that. Well, one of the things I noticed on mine, so I'm going to bump mine down overall. This whole area right here, this whole area right here had too much of a slow start. Like all this right here. This whole thing could be bumped up. One thing you can easily do with these that makes this clean and easy, I'm just going to delete the breakpoints that I didn't like, and I'm almost immediately going to go and bump this up faster. So I like to use, you can use the pencil tool. I like to use the grabber tool. The grabber tool will just allow me to just put a single point up and make an adjustment to it. So if I'm like, I kind of want, like, let's say I started too low, I want to start a little higher, and I kind of want to make this more even, then there we go, it's done. And if I was like, you know what, I just kind of want an average assessment of some of the bumps and changes that I did, you could easily do those. In addition to this, if you did want to manually write this in, you could use the freehand pencil tool and just go, all right, I want a little more variable, and literally just draw it. So I'm gonna pull that back. Right, and then we didn't really do the fade outs on this, but we'll do fades when we're all nice and done with everybody. The only other thing I'm going to do is, I might just use that. I think I just want to pull this up just a touch from where I was. Bingo. So the only downside to using the pencil tool, is I can't just do a single break in most cases, unless the continuation of the line isn't already written. So like if I wanted to draw something in right here, let's say I drew it in right here, it only adjusts for the duration of time that I write. So notice it didn't carry on from there. It's kind of why I like to use the grabber tool to delete the breakpoints and kind of start from scratch. But there's cleaning that up in a nutshell. So if you made a mistake already, like if you're like, I already know I have a mistake that I want to change now, go ahead and take just a moment to fix it. If you're fine with it, leave it as it is, because you may make adjustments to it later. Does that make sense? But if there was like something you're like, oh man, I just bumped it or something, and it wasn't worth redoing. If we took away my explanation of it, it would take you 2 seconds to do that. It'd be faster than running through the whole 15-second duration of it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to automating the plugin pitch. This will be kind of an interesting thing because we're going to incorporate two things. One, plugin adjustment and real-time automation. So here's what we're going to do on each of the tracks. Actually, just go ahead and put this in your notes for now. And then we'll just have you guys zip through this. In this next heading, this is still automation. This is the ambience automation, but this is pitch automation, okay? And what we're going to do in step 1, add to each track the insert for Pitchto. And that's what the plugin's called, essentially, the plugin Pitchto. Insert Pitchto. You'll find it in the plugin list here. Now, so step 1, add for each track, plugin Pitchto. hopefully you remember or recall how to copy plugins, okay? So the easy way to do this, I always find, so I can give you the, even though I said add it to all, the easy way to do this is set up the first one and then copy that information to all of the others, okay? So I'm actually just gonna set up the first one. In step 2, you need to activate the automation for the plugin. Now, so step 2, you can just write activate automation for plugin. We actually have to activate the automation. There's a lot of DSP stuff that's going on in the background if we have all this active automation we're not using. So we're going to activate the automation. How do we do it? In your notes, you just might want to write this little symbol. I don't know if you remember this, seeing this before. Last time we did the automation for plugins. It's this little window symbol. This is how you activate it. You click in the list. In your next step, you're going to specifically choose, I think, yeah, we're going to use ratio. One, I'll say this, the thing about it is on most of these pitch shifters, so in your next step, you could just say choose ratio, select add in the plugin automation, and hit OK. But let me explain why that's the case. The interesting part about this is on a pitch shift, like anybody know anything about pitch? Maybe anybody musical understand some pitch? Okay. If I said, hey, I have a pitch shift plugin, what's the first control I'm probably looking for? Yeah, frequency. What's really interesting about that is there are probably like 10 major pitch shift plugins. The majority of them never say frequency. What do they say instead? A lot of times they'll say like this one. It just says pitch shift and it says fine and then it says coarse. Well, the issue with that is fine is in cents. And if you know much about pitch, that's like very, very small. The next one is in coarse, which then it becomes small, large enough to start to hear changes in the pitch. Well, the problem with it is that when when you use the coarse control, even then moving and shifting from one pitch to the other actually still takes a while because it's jumping, and that's the weird part about it is it's jumping in semitones. And if we did it in cents, it's just a huge range. So the easy way to do it is they put this ratio control, which is just a percentage of how the pitch gets shifted. And it's just the easiest way and the fastest method to pitch adjustment that kind of allows for a faster control. Because the one thing, like if I said, hey, I want to drop this pitch 2 octaves, the interesting part about this is it doesn't have an octave adjustment. What it has instead is I'm going to have to, in order to do octaves, I'm going to have to drop it, essentially 24 semitones down. And that's a huge jump for that knob. But if on the ratio percentage instead, from a ratio percentage, if I want to drop 2 octaves down, all I have to do is drop down to 25%. And it's built to just go from 0 to 100 and then from 100 beyond. So it's a real quick adjustment. So like in most cases, if you're working with pitch shift, you're looking for a ratio knob. It's just usually the cleanest, easiest way to get there. Unless you knew exactly what note you were pitch shifting to and you're like, well, I know I just want to go down one half step. Then you could use coarse because you're going to want the semitones. Anyway, so after activating this, the big thing is on your automation list, it should exist, okay? Then what we're going to do, in your next step, you can just put this as your next step. You're just going to hold Option and drag the plugin to each of the other tracks. Okay, so you're going to hold Option and drag it to the other tracks. After this step, where do we need to go? We're going to go to Track View Selector, and we're going to move it to the Effects Pitch Ratio Automation. Now the cool part is if we put it on everybody, it just shifted us for everybody, so we can see it real quick, clean and easy. Does that make sense? So that next step was go to the Track View Selector and select the pitch ratio, right? Now, we're about to do an additional automation to something that already had previous automation, and we want to keep the previous automation. Do you guys remember what automation mode we might want to use? No, it's not one of the mode names. We're actually going to use Latch, okay? And if we chose right, it'll override everything we've already done, okay? which means it may flatline our faders. Well, if we do latch, it just adds on to the automation mode. So in your next step, choose automation mode latch. In your next step, you need to go to Window, Automation. All right, so in your next step here, you need to go to Window, Automation. What we need to do next, okay, so we're going to go to Window, the menu, Window, Automation. It's also, you can see it up there, it's Command 4. The reason we need to do this is we just need to confirm real quickly that our plugin automation is on our active automation list. I don't know if you guys remember seeing this from a while back. Do you guys remember this little window? Basically, what this guy does is it just allows us to easily activate or deactivate certain things that are being automated. You know, and in some cases, it's weird. By default, these aren't typically all on. So we just got to jump in there and activate them all. So after that step, you just need to make sure in your next step that plugin is activated. See where it says write enable? So it has to be red. Okay, so your next step, make sure plugin is active. So the interesting part about this, like, let's just say, if we had a console in front of us or a controller in front of us, it might be a real issue. It might be a real problem. Because if you had a controller in front of you, like if you had a controller laid out in front of you and you were about to write an automation for something that, like, let's say you have faders out in front, that you had the potential to accidentally bump those faders while you were automating something else, you may actually want to temporarily deactivate from the write enable list volume. Does that make sense? So that you don't accidentally write. Because it's in latch mode, and it won't override anything on the fader that you wrote volume unless you accidentally touch the fader, and then it will. Does that make sense? So like, this is a good case for why you might want to do it. Otherwise, when you're in the box, you don't have to worry about that in most cases because you don't accidentally bump into random automations. All right, so if we're happy with this, awesome. In the next step, open the Pitchto plugin. We have to have this plugin open. And notice, I'm going to kick this back. Notice what happened to the ratio knob. Now, it only has this green thing there because I activated this in the plugin automation. Notice none of these other knobs are green. So that means it's an active candidate for it, but it's not ready to write. As soon as I went and put it to latch, all of a sudden it turned red because now it's ready to rock and roll. Does that make sense? So in our next step, this is a combination of things, just like the last one. In the next step, start from the beginning, push play, and write the automation for the ratio knob. And you're going to do it in real time. So you can put your headphones on and write it in. So in your next step, you're literally just going to start from the beginning and you're going to move the ratio knob. And I'll show you how I'm going to do it. You can do it to taste. You don't have to do it a ton. You can do it mildly. The goal is so that the track isn't very stagnant. The good news is that this track, like when we added some of that other wind stuff, it allowed for the track to kind of have a little bit more of a fluctuating variable because we split them off left and right. You remember doing that? We split them off left and right. We shifted their time so that they're in stereo and they're not going one for one right at the same amount of time. And we added a heavy wind underneath it to kind of give it some fluctuating thing. So it's already fluxing just a little bit. All we have to do in this next step is we're just going to push play and just mildly move the ratio. Now, if you mess up, you can easily hit undo by hitting Command Z. Just make sure you save before you go. So we'll watch how this works. All I have to do is move this knob in this amount of time. And that's it. Real simple. No, notice I didn't do anything. I didn't go drastic because if I had, this is what drastic would have sounded like. Oops. Right? It would have been really noticeable. So instead, I just, nice and easy. And that's it. Make sense? After this, your final step is to return to read mode. And hopefully press save if you're happy. Let's go ahead and do this. So return to read mode is your last thing. So that, so just make sure you don't leave it in latch or write. So let's go and do it. Let's have you guys, yes. Oh yeah, that menu down at the bottom. Yeah, if your sends are out of view, there's a menu at the bottom. There you go. Yeah. Oh yeah, here's two, right? Look at your mix window. Yeah, down at the bottom there, that little window. Just hit sends or inserts. I'm sorry, inserts. Sorry, did you hit sends? You should have hit inserts. AQB. Bingo. There you go.
Need some static.
Oh, push save real quick. Let me hear it. Is it staticky right now and it's not playing? Push play real quick, man. Oh yeah, it's a. I think you just need to reset your. Here, stop real quick. Go to the setup, and go the setup window at the top, and then go to playback engine. Let's toggle this sample rate. Yeah, go to 1024. Yeah, there you go. Sorry. Push play now. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Yeah, I mean it seems kind of quiet, but yeah, overall it should be fine. Like I think it was a sample rate buffer issue. Did you group okay? Or was you had an issue with the group? No, you were good. You guys, everybody else is pretty good with this, right? Looks good. Oh, you didn't activate your ratio yet?
Yeah, I forgot.
It's the okay. It's in the. That's the one thing that's kind of weird. It's in the plugin.
Oh yeah, the little one.
Yeah, there you go. Add ratio. Awesome. Just give me a wave when you're done with that process, when you're back to read. Okay. You good? Okay. Good? Rafi, did you get this? You good? Okay. Now what we're going to do is I want to move on to the Avalanche section. Now, just out of a show of hands, obviously you guys should have at least had the start cue for when or I should say that, not the avalanche, but the ice crack section. So like when the ice crack starts happening right here at this marker, this whole section, how many of you actually had at least the effects dropped into the sync point? Okay. Now, how many of you, out of those who had it into the sync point, how many of you had it fulfilled all the way to the end duration of where the chip falls off the top and then the whole thing comes down? Okay. So what we're going to do is, this is what I showed you last week. I just want to have you guys do this process because, again, it's pretty simple and easy. What we're going to do is we're going to set up this ice cracks situation. And I think I dropped mine on the Avalanche track because it's part of that same system. So I kind of left everything that was part of this whole process, even the beginning with the ice cracking, as part of the Avalanche track. So what I want you to do is I want you to take this, let me find this sync point. Okay, I want you to move to this following sync point. It is 1001108. So that's where you see that's this time up here. I'm gonna go ahead and well, I might just actually that's what I'll do. So I'm gonna take mine out the list. I'm gonna redo mine so that you can see this from scratch. All right, so I'm just going to call this Avalanche. Okay, so what I'm going to do is at this marker, okay, so this is the 1108. What I want to use is I want you to bring in, and if you already had a track set up, that's fine. What you could do is mute it for now and just make a new one so we can kind of build this as a group. I'm going to bring in Ice Crack. I think it's Ice Crack 2. Yeah, it's Ice Crack 2. Okay, so I want you to bring in Ice Crack 2 and drop it at that 1108. You have to put it in spot mode and drop Ice Crack 2 at 1108. So sync point 1001108. Although apparently, shoot. So I'm going to redo mine real quick because I didn't have my sync point set up. Bam. Okay, there we go. How many of you have it in there now? Everybody have it in there now? Does anybody need help getting it placed? Yeah, you guys good? Yeah. Okay. So here's what we're going to do, and you can do this in kind of any variations. You remember last week I was showing you my method for copying and extending this whole thing as a fluid process. What was I doing? I had 2 steps and all that I did that made this thing fly. What was it? So that I could extend it. So like if you look at this clip, or I'm sorry, if I look at the file size and I go to where this is the last of the major sounds, there's still ice cracking going on, right? So obviously I need more of this. So what am I going to do? 2 steps, 2 major steps. Okay, step 1. So let's go ahead and write this in your notes, and I'll have you just kind of write this down. So in your notes, you could just, I think the header for this might be most appropriate as, well, I guess I don't know. I guess for this we could just call it extending the Avalanche clip. Okay, extending the Avalanche clip. This is what's weird. This works for sound effects. It doesn't necessarily work for certain sound effects, but it doesn't work for dialogue for an obvious reason. You'll see in a second. But it works great for sound effects like this. So this is just the extending the Avalanche clip. We're going to do 2 things. Step 1, highlight part of the clip and duplicate it. Okay, so step 1, highlight part of the clip and duplicate it. And it could be any part of the clip. Highlight part of the clip and duplicate it. How do we duplicate? Command D, right? For duplicate. So highlight part of the clip and duplicate. So we're going to use Command D. Did you have to reboot? Yeah. Sorry, bud. Step 2. Select the duplicated clip and use Audio Suite to reverse it. You guys remember this? So we're going to select the duplicated clip and use Audio Suite to reverse it. All we're going to do is use Audio Suite to flip it over. Why does that work? Well,
It loops it.
so
It loops it, so the end is the same, the beginning is the same as the end.
exactly. So in the clip, it literally is like if we were to zoom in on the waveform and the end of the waveform clip literally does this. Well, if we just duplicate it, it might start off over here or something like that. If we flip it, then it literally is just a mirror image. Then the end of the first clip and the beginning of the next clip, we flip it over. It is literally the end of this. So it literally is the identical version of this in opposite form. So it's like what it does is when they meet end to end, because it's flipped over, it literally just continues on as if it had never, had an issue. So those essentially merge in this kind of flip. So it was really cool. So you can kind of flip. You could almost flip anything at any stage. Which is why I just said you can select a part of the flip that you like. You don't have to do it the same way that I do. So you don't actually have to use the same method. All we're going to do to extend this clip, though, what I want you to do to extend this clip, use this process. You got to get all the way to, let's see, what's this marker? I mean, and it's a long time. Here we go, here we go. Man, I might as well just push play. Here we go, here we go. Go, 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 go. Right? You see how, like, this is actually longer than the majority of everything else that we've done. And all the way up until this one, like, chip at the top, okay? So all of a sudden, that's when it shifts. So all the way up until, let's see. There we go. Somewhere in here. Let's find it. All right, there it is. All the way until we see this chip at the top launch. Boom, right? Because there's going to be another sound effect right there. So you're going to take it all the way to 3406. I'll write this on the board so you remember, so you don't have to look back. So you're going to go up to 3406 from, what was the start time? You guys are sitting on the start time, right? What that start time was? Oh, 1108. 1108. So you're going to go all the way from there to there. So your goal is, and here's the thing, when it's repeated back to back, it's very obvious that it's the same clip going over and over again. When you reverse it, it actually separates itself from the nearest thing that would repeat, because it's playing backwards, it's a little hard to identify. So how you would do this essentially is you can, and I would suggest kind of changing some of the variables. So like, you're basically trying to extend it to that point. What you're probably going to want to do, let's see if I can get this. You're probably going to want to avoid looping all this quiet stuff over here. You're probably going to want to stay inside of this chunk. So you may end up wanting to let it do that, right? And then you're probably going to want to eliminate this. What you probably want to do is then take it back to back with something like this. Now, here's the cool part. So let's say I pull it here. Let's see if I pull it here. All right, what am I going to do? Command D, right? And then Audio Suite. Go to Other. It's in the category of Other. I'm going to hit Reverse. Hit Render. Render is what flips it over. So like that actually takes the act in process. And then I can go to the next section. And here's what we can do a little differently here is because of where this was chosen, we could actually, if we wanted to just kind of extend this as it was, we could do this like this. Dupe, reverse, dupe, reverse, dupe, reverse, dupe, like have it be a little stronger. And then if we matched up, let's see. Since these are, sorry, I'm trying to remember which way this goes. So if you kind of watch the order that this goes into, this one, because the way that I used it, this one particularly is this over here, because I had cut it out that way in reverse, which means if I go to shuffle mode, I'm just going to shuffle it back so it matches, so it locks in. All right. Then I had that whole thing reversed. Well, the cool part about this is if I'm like, oh, I love this huge, large chunk here, now that you built, now what we can do is we literally can cycle this back around again. So what do? Take the whole thing, right? So you see I set this up and I did that reverse pattern. Duplicate that whole thing, flip it back over, and here we are again. So let's check it out from the top. Now, what we're going to do here, I don't know if you remember me doing this Monday. We're going to go in and shift this. So there's an EQ adjustment. So you won't actually hear this. What you'll hear is the rumble. Do you remember me doing this Wednesday last week? So all we heard was the filter rumble on this side. So like when we get to this part where he's it goes away from the cracking, it goes to his eyes. It'll kind of be a low end murmur. You won't really hear it. And then all of a sudden Now, some of this timing, you may go, well, like right here, looking at this, you do all these reverses. You might have to just go ahead and do a quick insert. I would do an insert right here. Like, there's this little peak that's out by itself, and it goes like this, right? What I would do, honestly, I think I'm going to have to duplicate this. I'm going to have to just shuffle this just a touch. So there's going to be one little awkward spot, but we can heal this if it's a little awkward. I'm just going to shuffle this until, basically, I want to hear it do that when it goes over the edge. Almost there. And then, of course, I can nudge it. Almost. Right? Does that make sense? So I'm kind of just trying to get that whipping kind of sound in there. What I'll do then is I'll just, hopefully I'll have some space for it. Oh yeah, I'm just going to heal this by pulling this back. But it looks like I don't have a full one. So I'm going to have to duplicate this again. Sorry, I didn't reverse this one. Duplicate this again, reverse this guy, and that'll fix that. And then I notice, I'm just going to steal this. So I'm just kind of creatively throwing these in. I'm just going to steal this one whipping peak right here. So it narrows up a little. Oh, wrong spot. Now the cool part about this, once we're done with all this, any clicks or pops or whatever, we can crossfade. We'll do a batch fade so that we can get rid of all that stuff. But for the most part, we're just duplicating and reversing, kind of creatively putting some of these where we like them, those little swells. And then we're going to automate this so that it has more emphasis in the spots that we need. Now, I don't think I made it all the way, so let's go one more round. What was that marker? 3406? So I'm just going to kind of find 06, 06, and I can hit Command E to separate it and hit delete. We'll add another effect right here. So as soon as that launches off, you can just highlight that, delete it. Okay, there's two methods. So in this last thing, let me add one more thing to your. So that was extending it. Let me just add. This is a separate step, but at the very end, there's two things you can do to hit this 3406 end marker. Okay, the two things you can do. All right, and I just jot this down. Okay, so essentially this is just trimming the clip to a specific amount of time. Okay, so you just put trimming the clip to time. All you have to do to trim a clip to time is one of two methods. You can either, in the first method, use the selector tool, okay? Use the selector tool, click on the clip, and then type in the number. What was it again? 3406. And then what that does is it drops you to that point in the, like it keeps you selected and it moves you to that point in the clip, okay? Step 2 for that process is then to hit Shift, Option, Return. Shift, Option, Return. Shift plus Option plus Return. What this does is it selects everything in that clip from that point all the way to the end. Shift, Option, Return. You see it on screen, it's like selected from that point all the way to the end. Your next step is to hit Delete. And then it's just going to clear out, it'll just cut that thing off right at the exact time that you want. Instead of having a freehand, it literally does it at the time that you want it. What's the issue with this, though? When might this be not a good idea? Exactly. If you were trying to do this and there was something over here, you're going to get rid of it. So that's obviously a problem, right? So this is good when we do it like this, like we're setting it up today. You don't have anything beyond it. It's a real quick, easy way to do it. The other way you could do it, or the other method for it, which is the method that I used, and so if you just make, method 2 or whatever you want to put here for this, the method that I used was called the separate clip command. And the separate clip command, so you can just put separate clip command is to, essentially you're going to repeat step 1 or step 1 and 2. Essentially you're going to click into the clip, with the selector tool. So with the selector tool, click into the clip and then type the time in again. Keep forgetting because I'm an old man. 3506. And then hit Command E to separate. So you're going to hit Command E to separate. After this, the next step is double click the clip, the unwanted clip, should I say. Double click the unwanted clip. Now it's separated and it becomes its own clip. Double click the separated clip, the unwanted clip, and hit Delete. Now get rid of it. That just makes sure that you go all the way up to that time and it stops right there. What we're going to do with this is we'll transition off to another sound effect as soon as this is done. At this time, I want you to go ahead and start doing this process so that you get that ripple of time with all the ice cracking all the way to that point. Okay? And again, it's just it's basically highlighting it, hitting Command D, and then going to Audio Suite, Other, and reversing. So Audio Suite, Other, and Reverse. And if you leave the little reverse engine open, and you can just keep reusing it and reusing it. After this, we're going to automate this stuff to make it a little more realistic. Oh, okay, so all you have to do, you already duplicated it?
Yeah.
And is that the duplicate? Okay, so well, the first one, you're gonna wanna work, wait, so this, but yeah, let's do the first one. So this is reverse, all you have to do is hit render. And then it flips it, you see it? Yeah, and then this one has to stay unflipped. I mean, the thing is if you were to copy the flipped one, you just have to keep flipping it along the way so it's always backwards. You'll see it, like, see how I'm kind of married in the middle? Those are perfect. So then you could just keep going on, you know, or you could, the other thing you could do is, see, and that's kind of the cool part of the way that you did it here. See how you married these two right there, and you married this one right here? This front is the same thing as you see at the end of this clip. So like you could, if you wanted to put this over here, let's see, how would you do it? Oh, this is trash, right? Yeah, delete it real quick. So then you could, if you wanted, you could keep repeating this small section, or you could copy paste this over here, flip it backwards, and then slide it so that they are, you know, meet, because these are the same ends. And then you have this whole thing to work from again, and you could keep reversing or flipping and reversing that. So like, does that make sense? Well, I would double click it. Yeah, and then just hit copy or Command C. And then if you just do it in open space, and then hit Command V, and then flip it real quick by hitting revert or render, and then if you go to shuffle mode, this just accurately switch the grabber real quick and just pull it left. You'll see this line show up. There you go. It like makes it, make sure you go back to slip. It just makes sure that it like goes together seamlessly there. And then you just keep going through the process. Yeah, good job. Cool. Just give me a wave when you got it. Awesome. Don't forget to save. Save, save, save. All right, anybody else done? No? Were you done, Rafi?
Almost.
Okay. Good. Close. Okay, what I want to do next is we are going to now apply, and if we have time, we only have about 10 minutes, we're going to try to jam through this. We're going to apply EQ automation first, okay, using filters in EQ. So on the Avalanche track, in your steps for this EQ automation, you could literally write this down. This will be quick. EQ automation, add EQ to the track. All right, add EQ to the track, then activate, and in this instance, so the EQ we're going to use is the EQ37 band. We're going to activate the low pass frequency automation. Okay, we're going to activate the low pass frequency automation. Then you're going to, in your next step, flip the track to right. And you're going to automate the low pass frequency. Actually, one thing before you do this, let's set the LPF. See where it says Q? Let's set this low pass filter Q to 24 dB an octave. It's just this little guy right here. What this does is it makes a sharper adjustment. Otherwise, it's pretty mild. And then you're going to automate this frequency knob. Final step, when you're done, just flip it to read. Does that make sense? So let me walk you through it. So all you're going to do is you're going to add this EQ, EQ7, go to the automation list. It's at the very bottom. Not the very bottom, but it's pretty far down there. Low pass frequency, hit add, hit OK. Now go to the beginning of that Avalanche clip. This won't be the beginning of the session, but it'll be the beginning of the Avalanche clip. And what you're going to do is you're just going to automate back and forth, toggle back and forth specific sounds. The one that we do want this filtered very down low on is when it kind of zooms through his legs and you see his eyeballs kind of bulge out. So watch what I'm going to do. I flipped it to auto right. I'm just going to push play, and this is the only knob. This is right here is the only knob I'm worried about. Okay, here we go. Oh, I'm sorry. We have to hit the end button. Let me do that again. Forgot that little end button there for the LPF. Yeah, I could just use this. Now from here, you can just kind of, a little bit of shifting back and forth. All right, and that's it. I mean, all you're gonna do, you can actually, I'm sorry, using the knob is a pain. You can actually grab this little gray ball. That might be easier for you. And then after that, you're just gonna return it back to right. And then it'll just do it. I'm sorry, return it back to right. Return it back to read. Undo that. There we go. All right, and then once you're done, just run through that real quick. Hopefully it shouldn't take too long. Once you're done, we'll do one more thing if we can get to it. If not, walk away for Wednesday. So you're just going to go ahead and throw that EQ. I do apologize. I forgot the step to activating that button. So on the LPF, make sure you hit the in button. It's a little blue button. Make sure that's active. Good. Everybody sign in, by the way. Small group today. That's fun. Oh, oh, okay. See.
Oh, it's I'm doing the pitch because it was like popping.
Oh, it might have been your sample rate.
Oh, okay.
It was pop. It might be your sample rate. Like snapping. Was that like snapping?
Yes.
It might have been your sample rate. You can say what you can do is on your setup. You go to setup window, go to playback engine, and just toggle it to the playback engine, and then toggle the buffer size up. So let's take it up to 1024. Just try it now. Hopefully that